Hey guys, Rob Hilton here from AG Secure Barrie. Hope you're having a good day. So this is the next video in our series with regards to termination notices. This one that we're covering off today is the N12. The N12 can be used in two different circumstances. Once when a person has sold their house and the buyer is going to move into it. We're not going to talk about that one today. We've already done a video on that. If you're looking for that one, let me know and I'm sure I can connect you with the video. This one here is when the buyer or the buyer's family member is planning to move into the property. I'll start sort of going over things from the landlord's perspective, then I'll go over it from the tenant. So as a landlord, you're issuing a legal notice to somebody that you're going to terminate their tenancy for very specific reasons. It's either you're going to move into the property, your spouse, your own child, or parents of your yourself, parents of your spouse, or your spouse's children, or caregivers for any of the people that I've already identified there above. All those qualify on the N12. What I want to talk to you about first and foremost, as I've always said, if you're looking for legal advice, we highly encourage you to talk to a paralegal or a lawyer that specializes in landlord-tenant law, because this form does come with some consequences if you issue it in what the board determines to be bad faith. So if you didn't move into the property, if you went and re-rented the property right away, the landlord-tenant board changes were made under the Liberal government, under the Affordable Housing Act, to further protect tenants' rights. So a few things you need to know. If you own the house in a corporation, the corporation can't move into the property, so you can't issue an N12. It has to be a private individual. So ownership of the property has to be in the name of a private individual. Second thing, only those categories identified are categories that qualify for moving into the property. Third, it is expected that if you do move into the property, that you will be moving into the property and living there for at least 1 year. And fourth, once you've given that notice to the tenant, you are also expected to pay the tenant the equivalent to 1 month's rent prior to the termination date identified on the N12. I'm not going to go into all the other paperwork that you have to file or anything else. That's really important you get to know what that is. But those are the circumstances. What you have to know is if you file this paperwork and you do not show you had the intent, or you cannot prove the intent to move in was for one of those reasons or one of those individuals, you could be subject to a $25,000 fine if your tenants took you to the landlord-tenant board. So you really want to make sure you know exactly what you're doing with an N12, and you also want to make sure you understand the consequences of issuing the N12 if you are issuing it for reasons other than what it was intended for. The other thing you should be fully aware of is once you issue the N12, you're giving the tenant at least 60 days notice, rent period to rent period. But if your tenant finds another rental and they want to leave early, they have the right to come back to you and give you as little as 10 days notice. So tenants, as we talk about this, N12 is a completely legitimate reason to terminate a tenancy as long as the landlord is legitimately doing it for those reasons. You as a tenant on an N12 for personal use should be receiving compensation in the form of 1 month's rent on the termination date or before of the notice given. And addition to that, if there was a bad faith eviction, you do have a level of recourse. Just as I didn't go into all the forms the landlord has to follow, I'm not going to do the same for the tenants. That's something you're going to want to talk to the proper individuals and get advice on that. But the N12 form is not a form to play around with. And I've seen a lot of people say, hey, I'm sending you an email. The email says I'm going to move my brother in on this date. You need to move out. By the way, that's not legal notice. And I'm going to go over a few of those. It's the last video in this series. But for the N12, that's a really high level review of what an N12 is. If you have questions or concerns, you can ask them here. We'll do our best to get you in contact with the right people to answer those. If you're a landlord and you don't want to even have to worry about all this stuff and concerning about it, you should be contacting a property manager like ourselves or somebody else and paralegals to help you through this process. Any questions or concerns, just send us a message, guys. Tell us what you want to hear about, and we'll be sure to get those videos on for you. Take care. Have a good day.